go, baby. All right, let's dive into this. So this was interesting from Justice Mosqueda. The wide receiver snap counts from Family Night with the first team. So this would be with Jordan Love running the quarterback, right? He did every first team rep now that he's back in practice. This from the article on acmepackandco.com. Romeo Doubs took 21 of the 26 first team offensive snaps. Christian Watson ranked second, with 19 snaps. Jaden Reed in there with 16. So let's draw a line there, right? Those are your top three receivers as it stands today, August 5th. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed in the slot. If you have three receivers on the field, oftentimes you do, it will be those three a lot of the times. Now, where people are getting concerned is when you go to the next three that played some first-team snaps. Dontayvion Wicks is the fourth name with 6 snaps. Bo Melton, 1 snap behind Wicks with 5 first-team snaps. And Grant Dubois getting in there a little bit. The draft pick from a year ago who didn't see the field. 2 first-team snaps for Grant Dubois. So those are essentially your top 6 receivers as it stands right now. But where people are, I don't want to say freaking out. I think that's a little strong. But where people are getting concerned or wondering what's going to happen with this wide receiver room is the 6 snaps for Dontayvion Wicks. I saw a lot of fantasy football content creators and bloggers saying, hey, stop the Dontayvion Wicks hype. 6 snaps of 26 with the first team at their stadium practice. He's not worth drafting in a fantasy draft. By no means am I a fantasy football expert, despite 11 years ago writing for SB Nation's fantasy football department. I am by no means a fantasy football expert. Fake it till you make it. Wicks is still a very, very, very intriguing prospect for 2024. And when you look at 26 snaps for the first team offense at Family Night, you do have to understand that's about half of what you get in a real game. So let's just double that. Let's say 52 snaps in a regular offensive game or so. Wicks, in turn, would be getting 12 of them. That's still quite low. So what does that mean? Let's just stumble over through the possible scenarios of what that means, and I'll let you draw your conclusion, and I'll give you mine as well. Scenario 1 is they haven't seen enough from him, and they're clearly sending a message that it is a top 3, not a top 4 like a lot of us have assumed throughout the offseason when it comes to the Packers wide receiving core. Maybe the Packers view it as we have 3 strong horses. That's Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed. Those are our 3 guys, and sometimes we'll dip into the Bo Meltons and Dontayvion Wickses of the world. That could be scenario 1. Scenario 2, he's had a rough camp. This is public punishment for it. But that really hasn't been the case, right? You've heard a lot of good things about Dontayvion Wicks through the first 10 or so practices, 10 practices now after Family Night. So I don't think that's the case. Is there something going on internally? Are they sending a message to Dontayvion Wicks? That, of course, is a possibility. Are they trying to calm down all of the hype? Jair Alexander going on national publications. Jordan Love doing his Ask Me Anything with Bleacher Report a few weeks back. Both of those guys saying, yeah, Dontayvion Wicks is going to be really good. He's going to be really good. He's a guy to watch. So I'm not freaking out over this. And I think the reason for that is we saw what happened a year ago between injuries and how often Matt LaFleur likes to change up the personnel he has on the field. I think Dontayvion Wicks is going to get his and is still going to have a very, very good chance for a breakout sophomore season with the Packers. Only 6 first-team snaps of 26 at Family Night obviously isn't the brightest indication. Oh, and by the way, the 4th scenario, of course, is they're streaming this for the first time. They don't want other teams to see what Wicks is capable of. That, of course, could be the 4th scenario. I think that's probably one of the least likely, but I don't know. You never know with Packers paranoia. It is a very real thing. So what I draw this up to is they're not running a lot of personnel on Family Night and 11 on 11s with 4 receivers. And I think you feel really comfortable with 2 30-year guys and Dobbs and Watson being your top 2 and Reed being your slot receiver because he's just capable of more than every other receiver on this team. He's more versatile. He can line up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can do some fun end-around stuff. He can catch it between the hashes. He can work outside between the numbers and the sideline. Reed is a really, really versatile receiver. Wicks is a great route runner. debatably top 10 in the NFL already. Like, he is a really, really crisp route runner. Watson takes the top off defenses. He's one of the fastest receivers in the NFL. And Romeo Doubs is just as consistent as can be. And I think he's become, in some way, shape, or form, Jordan Love's type of security blanket. Right? Rodgers had his 87. Now Love's got his in Romeo Doubs. So I think that's all it is. I think we're probably reading too much into this. Because if they're down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, you're going to see 4 receivers on the field, and he'll be out there. And shoot, we might get to a point halfway through the season where Wicks over Watson makes more sense, and it's more Doubs, Wicks, and Reed. Or maybe it makes more sense for Watson, Wicks, and Reed. Your very high potential wide receiver lineup. I think it just is what it is here, and maybe we're looking too far into it. Before we get Hunter's reaction to this, though, I want to go to Joshy, because Josh, you're the one that brought this up to me, and you are also the one that floated the theory of, hey man, maybe they're just trying to hide Dontayvion Wicks from other teams because they're streaming this practice. What do you think the story is here? Because when we talked a lot about the Jordan Love contract situation, you were the only one that was like, hey, there's more to this story. So Joshy, I ask you, hey, is there more to this story?
I think we can't totally dismiss this story as it's happening. I would dismiss the idea almost out of hand of they're trying to hide him. But the Packers are so weird.
They're so weird
about the way they protect themselves and protect like the state secrets that it has to at least be a factor. To me, the most likely option is they think they got their 3 guys and that's it. I do have concerns about that because I think a offense run through Romeo Doubs might be a little stunted, have a little issue in terms of explosiveness if he's going to be such a big factor, because he is far and away right now the guy we've heard the most about most recently. I think also if you're going to view Dontayvion Wicks as like a distant fourth like that, then just trade the guy because somebody out there thinks higher of him. And you could probably get some value out of that.
It's still too early, though.
I think it is early, but at some point, if this is how it's going to be and this carries out through the season where he's seen 15 or less snaps, what are you doing here? What's the point?